Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's 7 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on this Wednesday, the second day of August. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive, and we're so grateful that you have joined us for your afternoon commute or whatever it is you're doing out there. We really love having you alongside and appreciate that you have found merit in the things that we provide you each and every day. Yesterday, of course, about this time, we had big breaking news that had to do with an indictment that was pending against the former president of the United States, Donald Trump. And it came out, it's like 48 pages, looked at it, tried to put some sense to it. You know, it's hard when you're in the middle of the show to read a 48-page legal document and really focus on it. But, I mean, the initial sense that I got was not much there, pretty thin gruel. And then I wanted to look at it a little more and study it. And it usually takes about a day for these things to shake out. I'm going to play for you a piece of sound which I think is pretty significant. It was actually on CNN, but it was President Trump's lawyer, John Lauro, versus Caitlin Collins. Now, this runs, again, 3 minutes. And I don't normally run sound that is, 3 minutes long. But Lauro's making a really, really fabulous case here that there's not much here to worry about, that this is all about free speech and that the former president has, free speech rights just like you and I do. And here we go. I want you to hear this because I think by the time we get through this 3 minutes or so, you're going to go, well, yeah, I agree. There's not much there. John Lauro speaks on behalf of President Trump.
It's the ultimate request that Mr. Trump made to Vice President Pence was pause the vote counting, allow the states to weigh in ultimately and audit or recertify. And under Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2, the actual responsibility for qualifying electors is in the state legislatures. Mr. Trump had the advice of counsel, Mr. Eastman, who was one of the most respected constitutional scholars in the United States, giving him advice and guidance. That's pure politics. You may disagree with it, and people have spirited arguments about the law all the time, and that's why lawyers are in business. But we've never had a situation where a spirited debate about the Constitution has become a criminal case. What's going to happen when there's a Republican administration? Is there going to be an effort to criminalize speech by Democrats? Is there going to be an effort to characterize something that a Democrat politician says that's not that doesn't meet some kind of truth standard at the Department of Justice, that's going to be the subject of a criminal indictment? We've now entered a constitutional abyss as a result of this indictment. There were states where ballots were sent out without people asking for them, where there were changes in verification, where there were instances where ballots were not being supervised at drop-off places. The president was told, given advice, that under these circumstances, the state legislatures have the ultimate ability to qualify electors. He followed that advice. Now, you may disagree as to whether or not those things actually occurred or not. That's why we have political debate. We don't have criminal trials over that. We have the discussion like we're just having.
But it matters if those things actually occurred or not, John.
Not under the First Amendment.
It matters if those things actually occurred because...
Not at all, because under the First Amendment...
It does matter if there's actually fraud.
No, the First Amendment allows...
But John, let me stop you there, because if he's saying that there was fraud, the First Amendment doesn't allow the President of the United States to go and claim there was fraud when he was told there was not fraud and then try to subvert the election by overturning legitimate electors. I mean...
If we're going to have a situation where the Department of Justice is going to fact-check politicians and indict politicians for political speech and whether or not they're factually accurate, then this country will shut down politically because it's a never-ending cycle of tit for tat. And that's the risk of injecting politics into the criminal justice system. So right now, people disagree with President Trump. What's going to happen 4 years from now if somebody disagrees with President Biden in terms of what he said during the election? That's why we don't criminalize political speech. Political speech under the First Amendment has an almost absolute protection. Nobody gets to judge whether it's true or not, except the American people. And
But
we do
John-
that in an election. We do that in an election. We do that in the case of a president by impeachment, but we don't indict people
John,
for speech.
I gotta
Well, I think he's right. That's John Lauro, in case you just joined us, who speaks on behalf of President Trump. Political free speech should not be the subject of a criminal trial. And there are others who have come to this conclusion. I read from the Washington Examiner, an editorial by the Washington Examiner staff. The attack on our nation's capital was an unprecedented assault, Special Counsel Jack Smith said on Tuesday, as he unveiled his latest indictment against former President Donald Trump. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies by the defendant, targeting and obstructing a bedrock function of U.S. government. But there's nothing in the indictment that ties Trump to the attack. More than 1,000 people have been charged for the violence of January 6, 2021. Some have even been charged with a conspiracy to forcibly prevent President Joe Biden from taking office. The indictment does not allege that Trump was involved in any of those acts. What the indictment does is allege that by repeating statements made in public and private, Trump was part of a conspiracy for which the purpose was to overturn the illegitimate results of the 2020 presidential election. But honestly, is that a criminal offense? Deeper into the editorial, citing the honestly held beliefs of their constituents that there was widespread voter fraud, 11 Republican senators and senators-elect signed a joint statement on January 2nd, 2021, calling for a delay in the January 6th certification. Both before and after January 6th, Trump endorsed this course of action. By the logic of the indictment and the prevailing conspiracy law, these senators are just as guilty as Trump. But why weren't they charged? Because Jack Smith knows this would be politically impossible for him to do. He knows he doesn't have a case against them. And if he doesn't have a case against them, then how could you have a case against Donald Trump? So, it's getting, I think the consensus is now emerging that Jack Smith has got a pretty weak case here. Now, here's the concern. Let me just put a caveat in this. This indictment came from a D.C. grand jury. Very blue. I forget what it is, but it's like 65-70% of the people who live in the District of Columbia count themselves to be Democrats. It's an extremely hyper blue city. And inside this hyper blue city, you can put together a grand jury pretty easily that will indict a Republican. The problem is, that's where the jury pool will come from. So, I don't think there's a case there, but what kind of reaction do you like to have from a very blue jury going forward? That's the concern that I have. By the way, I don't know how this is all going to play out, but it seems to me that that right now there are some, as it stands right now, I heard this statistic a moment ago, 78 different charges have been leveled against the president, and there are other investigations on their way. Now, I don't think it makes a whit to you. Many of the people within the sound of my voice will say, I don't care. We opened up the phones at least 3 times yesterday. And each and every time we opened up the phones and asked the question, we got back the same answer from you. People who have voted for Trump and say, it makes no difference to me. I'm going to vote for him again. But nonetheless, it is certainly going to be something to watch as all of this starts to unplay in a court of law throughout the fall and into the spring if he can't get this stuff pushed off past the elections. And by the way, those motions have indeed been filed. Special counsel Jack Smith's teams made a startling admission in its case against former President Donald Trump. according to the Epoch Times. Donald Trump acknowledging in a new court filing that it failed to turn over all evidence of Mr. Trump's legal team as required. It's called discovery. You're not supposed to hold anything back. Mr. Smith's team said in a July 31st court filing in its classified documents case against the former president that it had incorrectly claimed during a July 18th court hearing that it had provided all Mar-a-Lago surveillance footage to Mr. Trump's defense attorneys as required by law. Coming later that day, and the discovery production for the defendant, the government learned that the footage had not been processed or uploaded to the platform, and so they had to straighten that out. Under the so-called Brady rule, prosecutors in a criminal trial have a constitutional duty to disclose all evidence to a defendant's legal team, including information that is favorable to the accused and could reduce a potential sentence. The Department of Justice did not immediately return a request for comment from the Epoch Times. Donald Trump, according to the Financial Times, Donald Trump, they make the acknowledgement that he suffered a new legal blow yesterday, once again being indicted. But even as the criminal proceedings against him pile up, consuming his bid for a new term at the White House, the former president is betting that he can use them to his political benefit. He has gone once again to his various social media platforms, Truth Social most notably of them, and has said, look, if I'm being persecuted, and you know what, they raise cash, and the support tends to go up. If I am a betting man, it is my bet that in the days ahead, as the new polling data come out, the data will show that Donald Trump numbers have gone up again. And they're already pretty sky high for the Republican nomination. This will actually, I think, make it almost impossible, it would seem to me at the moment, for anyone to catch him. And he has overwhelming support of Republicans, in some cases 30, even 40 points ahead of the second place runner for the nomination on the Republican side of the equation, and that would be Ron DeSantis. In a moment, the Vice President of the United States, the former Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, has had some things to say about this indictment. I think some of you will be a bit angered by what the former vice president has to say. We'll get to that in a moment. It is 20 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
So all Senate buildings have now been evacuated after there was a possible active shooter call. Now the United States Capitol Police are standing by for re-entry of those buildings. They say no active threat at this time. That and more at 3:30. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, this started over in the Russell Building, and then they became concerned. There are tunnels that go between the Russell Building and the Dirksen Building and the Hart Building there on the Capitol, and they became concerned that if something had happened in Russell and there really was an active shooter situation, that it would be easy to get from one of these buildings to the others through these tunnels. By the way, almost anybody, you can pretty much walk into any of the Senate or House office buildings. I mean, you get in, you go to get through the front door, you got to go through security. But, I mean, they put you through a metal detector and all that. But, I mean, you don't have to have an appointment. Just about anybody can walk in. So I don't know what that was all about, but we'll continue to see what's happening. But apparently the good news is no active shooter at the Capitol. And they continue to look through the Senate office buildings to see, that there's no problem. We'll stay on it. If there's any more, we'll bring it to you. Mike Pence is trying to draw a bright line between him and Donald Trump, and he believes this is the argument that will do it. He is saying, look, I was doing the right thing on January 6th, and Donald Trump was asking me to do the wrong thing. Here is Mike Pence making comments today.
Irrespective of the indictment, I want the American people to know that I had no right to overturn the election. And then on that day, President Trump asked me to put him over the Constitution. But I chose the Constitution, and I always will. I really do believe that anyone who puts themselves over the Constitution should never be President of the United States. And anyone who asks someone else to put themselves over the Constitution should never be President of the United States again. Sadly, the President was surrounded by a group of crackpot lawyers that kept telling him what his itching ears wanted to hear. And while I made my case to him of what I understood my oath of the Constitution to require, the President ultimately, continued to demand that I choose him over the Constitution.
Well, Pence apparently took contemporaneous notes of his conversations with Donald Trump in the days before January 6th, and his previously unreported notes are presented as evidence against Trump, who faces 4 federal charges related to the actions after the 2020 presidential election and unproven claims that the election was stolen. You say, well, I think it was stolen. A lot of people believe it's stolen. A lot of people think that there was some irregularity, but was it ever proven? And the answer is no. I think there's a longer conversation to have about all that and how our elections are run. But it does seem to me that if you believe there is some irregularity, it's awfully hard to prove, that in the limited time you have between the election and the inauguration. And it's just tough. One way or the other, Mike Pence's secret notes revealed and have been given to Jack Smith as part of all this. But I don't understand, one part of all this. You have to say that the president knowingly knew the things that he believed were wrong. He believed, because there were people who were telling them this, this was a stolen election. He believed that because he was hearing from people who were telling him what he wanted to hear. And yes, there were people who also told him, I don't think that's gonna add up to anything. I don't think there's any there. And they, people like Pence were telling him, but, he's the president of the United States. He's hearing all sides. He hears something that he likes. He believes it may be true. How can you claim that he knew things and he was saying things that he knew to be untrue? How can you get inside somebody's head and make that determination of what it is they believe? So I think for a lot of reasons, this is not going very far. First and foremost about it is not the practice in the United States and under our Constitution to criminalize political speech. He may have been wrong, he may have been right when he said these things, but one way or the other, Does that make him a criminal? I don't think so. I think this indictment against Trump is pretty thin, and I honestly don't know whether or not it will stand up to any kind of scrutiny, but it certainly could get a conviction out of a D.C. jury. That's because, it's a very, very blue town. 30 minutes now, past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 3:30. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 86 degrees. Traffic and weather coming up in 5 minutes. Right now in the nation's capital, all Senate buildings have now been evacuated after about 2 hours ago. They were all told to shelter in place while officials responded to a possible active shooter call. USCP is now standing by for the re-entry of those buildings, and they're still investigating after police received a, quote, concerning 911 call. In Tennessee, a 34-year-old man accused of sexually assaulting 2 teenage girls has been taken into custody after being featured on the Metro Nashville Police Department's top 10 most wanted list. Kenneth Harris was wanted on outstanding warrants for 2 counts of sexual battery and domestic assault, according to police. He first appeared on the police department's most wanted list on July 19th, although the charges against him date back as far as December 2022. And the man who killed 11 people at a Pittsburgh synagogue 5 years ago has been sentenced to death. Sherry Preston.
Robert Bowers had been prolific online before the mass shooting, spewing a hatred of Jews and espousing white supremacist beliefs. Prosecutors said during his trial that he methodically plotted the attack, then went to the Tree of Life Synagogue in 2018, murdering 11 worshipers and wounding 2 others, along with 5 police officers. His lawyers didn't dispute the facts of the mass shooting. They said they were trying to spare his life. All of the jurors in the case, though, unanimously agreed Bowers should die for his crimes.
And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
All the time I'm talking to you about Beacon Capital Management and the things they can do to make sure you have the right portfolio, you have done the right things so that you can retire comfortably. And, they from time to time hold these seminars, and I think you would do well to go to this one. It's called A Market Halftime, halfway through 2023. Do you have the right things in your portfolio? It will talk about financial trends, opportunity, and outlook. This will be August 17th. At 10:30 at the Marriott in Cool Springs. And all you got to do to get this thing going is to just call them. 615-488-9303. That's 615-488-9303. I mean, you're going to have John Maxson, you're going to have Pete Benson, you're going to have other folks from the Beacon there, and I will be there to have the opening remarks and to shake your hand and to say hello. And so I hope that you will reach out to the folks at Beacon and give them a call and make your arrangements to be there on August 17th at 10:30 a.m. at the Marriott in Cool Springs. 615-488-9303. And, of course, you can always get more information about all the things that Beacon does by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 38 minutes now past the hour at 3 o'clock. Brian Wilson in the chair on the air. You're listening to The Drive. Thank you for being a part of what we do each and every day. I want to talk about woke news. We got a lot of woke news to work our way through here today. Some of it is stuff that we've talked about before, but there just continue to be new developments. This from the Daily Caller. Distributors apparently are giving up on Bud Light. I mean, I'm telling you, it was once, I don't know, I heard some time ago, somebody told me, he said, you know, if you want to get into a business where you can make money, you just need to become a beer distributor. It's licensed to print money. It really is. And it's a very profitable thing, being a distributor, and those distributorships are hard to come by. Well, several distributors of Anheuser-Busch beer say they have accepted the fact that they've lost money, a lot of it, due to consumers boycotting Bud Light. And not just that, but they've given up completely on trying to win back customers who have been negatively affected by the anti-American beer's Dylan Mulvaney campaign to the New York, according to the New York Post. Now, let me just ask you a question here. Do you give up completely? Is there any scenario under which Bud can fix this? That's a good question. We really probably should open up the phones on that. So maybe later today we'll open up the phones. You know, if apparently it's that bad, and it seems bad for Anheuser-Busch, is there anything that Anheuser-Busch could do that would resolve that issue in a way that you could forgive them and once again drink Bud Light? I think the problem is a lot of people came to the conclusion that Bud Light, Coors Light, and I don't know, maybe another light beer out here, it's all pretty much the same stuff. And they're not missing Bud Light because it's very similar to whatever else they landed on. And so, they don't have to go back. They're not saying, "Oh man, if I could just have a Bud Light."
Yeah, it's not like Coca-Cola, for example.
No.
Like a Pepsi just ain't the same as a Coca-Cola.
And the folks at Coors, by the way, have figured this out. This is from redstate.com. Coors hits the marketing target. Would you drink the beer of Dylan Mulvaney, or would you rather drink the beer of Rip Wheeler? From Yellowstone. If you don't know the character, he's bad A. He's like, what was that guy's name? Corn Pop. He's bad A.
He's a bad dude.
No, he's a lot badder A, I think, than Corn Pop. I don't know, even if Corn Pop even exists. Here from this story, we've been cataloging the demise of Bud Light for months. It was on April 1st when the country's leading beer brand revealed it was partnering with Dylan Mulvaney, and has been through an absolute meltdown that will become legendary in the realm of corporate missteps in the world of marketing. And the folks at Coors are now saying, look, why don't you drink the beer that Rip Wheeler of Yellowstone drinks? That's exactly, Cole Hauser. He's the kind of guy that you want to sell your product, I would say. I by the way, I adore that show, and I adore his portrayal of this guy, Rip Wheeler. I mean, he's a bad, you don't want to mess with him kind of guy on the show. And I think it's brilliant that the folks over at Coors are now trying to make that case. There's another bit of woke news is that starting yesterday, incandescent bulbs are illegal in the United States. That's right. You want a light bulb, an old-fashioned glow, a warm glow of the incandescent bulb, you're not going to be able to get it. Because the Energy Department has outlawed them. Some of this goes back to the Obama, but the Biden people continued on. And now you cannot go to the store and get an incandescent bulb. And if they catch some people selling the incandescent bulbs, there's a very hefty fine per bulb. So that's not going to happen. Why can't we just have nice things? Why can't I just have my incandescent bulbs? I mean, look, there's a time and a place for the LEDs. They are energy efficient, but I don't like the color of light that you get, Light has a temperature, a color. And I like the old-fashioned sort of yellow glow. I don't like, which by the way mimics natural light from the outside. I don't like the cold, harsh sort of. I don't know. It's too white, too bright, too white of the LEDs. So
you can get the warmness out of the LEDs, but you can't. But the cheap ones generally do not.
No.
Yeah.
So get ready. If you go looking to replace your 60-watt bulbs with some more incandescent bulbs, you're gonna be under, you're gonna be in for a big shock because you can't do it. Can't do it. This from justthenews.com, and it just talks about all the things that seem to be going on right now under this administration. Light bulbs, gas stoves, refrigerators. Biden tightens appliance grip despite lackluster support. They're coming after. I mean, this is the one that just drives so many people crazy. President Joe Biden facing increasing opposition for his ongoing crusade against popular household items, says Just the News. As of August 1st, traditional incandescent bulbs became the newest on the regulatory chopping block. They are effectively outlawed nationwide. Under new Energy Department efficiency standards, bulb manufactured and sold must now meet the minimum energy efficient standard of 45 lumens per watt, which gives rise to the LED bulbs because they can hit that. Biden's light bulb ban which is not easy to say, Biden's light bulb ban joins the list of growing home items the president has fixated on. Perhaps most notably, gas stoves have been the target of the administration for the last several months. Specifically, the DOE proposed energy consumption standards that, if enacted, would reportedly make half of America's gas-powered stoves non-compliant. In other words, you set the rule and you knock a lot of people out of business because their product is not compliant with your rule. This will wreak havoc on financially burdened families, according to Republicans. Because of this, House Republicans passed 2 bills aimed at blocking federal attempts to regulate gas-powered stoves, arguing that on top of the economic implications, it would also violate consumer choice. Other items like gas furnaces, AC units, washing machines, refrigerators have at times come under DOE, Department of Energy, scrutiny, all in the name of energy efficiency and combating climate change. However, many don't agree with the efforts to regulate home appliances are climate motivated. It's about doing away with the fossil fuel industry. They've been pretty clear about that. Well, that's exactly what it is. They don't want you to use natural gas. They don't want you to use any kind of carbon fuel. So, why is it that in America the government makes determinations about what consumers want? What's wrong in America with saying consumers should be able to pick out the things they want for their homes? They should decide what works. The problem is you start to make all of these changes, and we have a history of how it turns out. I mean, first they wanted to save a lot of water, so they decided we're going to have low-flow toilets. And I don't know, but, you got to have like 3 flushes to get the job done. Not to get too graphic, but, I mean, come on. And they clog, and they're worthless. You want a dishwasher that's water efficient, and so you end up getting a dishwasher that, well, honestly, doesn't clean dishes. I want it in there. I want to scrub it one time, and I want to be done. But that's not what we have right now because the government got involved in those kinds of things. And now they're coming after anything, water heaters, anything, gas stoves, whatever might burn natural gas, they don't want you to have in your house. And I want to say, you know what? I want to cook with gas. I don't want to cook with electricity. I think if you are a gourmet cook, I think almost anybody who cooks, and I'm married to one who's a gourmet cook, wants a gas appliance in their kitchen. Why is it that we have the government making these determinations for us? Shouldn't this be the choice of the consumer? But no, they don't want you to have certain things because, they think they know better than you. I'm telling you, if you get serious about shutting down gas stoves, you're going to have a rebellion in the kitchens across America. And I'm going to be upset because, when the wife is unhappy about about the things that go on in her kitchen, you're not going to be happy either. And you're not going to be happy until she's happy. Right? We all know that. I don't know. I'm sick and tired of the government getting involved in decisions that should be made by the consumer. It's my house. I'm paying for it. I want the things that I want, and I don't need the government telling me things that I can't have in my house. I don't want those restrictions. I don't want you to be involved in making those kind of decisions. I want you to leave me the hell alone to live my life as I see fit. And I want a gas stove, and get out of my business. I want incandescent bulbs. Get out of my chili, man. Get out of my business and let me live my life. We'll see. I don't think that these things are. This is the kind of thing that elections can be won or lost over. Actually, if this kind of stuff drives you nuts, you've got to get another Republican in there to change this stuff. It's not irrevocable. It is reversible if only the right people get into office. 50 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Some exciting news for you. Many of you have lived here a long time, and you already know about Eurofix. They've been in Middle Tennessee for 24 years now to meet all of your European car repair needs. And we've watched them grow. I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. And now the folks at Eurofix are proud to announce a 5th location for Eurofix in Mount Juliet, on Mount Juliet Road, right across from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. It's pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic who started in a barn in the backyard of a single-wide trailer grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. I said thousands. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. Just call this number, 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, it's backed by a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
No results after a lockdown at the U.S. Capitol Senate buildings because of a possible active shooter call. 2 manhunts, one in Williamson County and the other nationwide. That and more coming up at 4. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, let's look at the markets. Not a good day on the Dow, down 348 points. That's almost 1%. The S&P down more than 1%, down 63. NASDAQ down 310 points. That's well over 2%. What is this all about? Well, apparently the United States credit rating has been downgraded. John Maxon is standing by from Beacon Capital Management to tell us more about that. John?
Hey, Brian, that's right. So it was a little bit of a surprise today that Fitch Ratings came out and actually downgraded the U.S. Credit rating from AAA to AA+. Wasn't really as surprising as you might think, because they actually threatened that back in May because we had so much turmoil around the debt ceiling debacle. But, the market certainly doesn't like uncertainty, and that makes an economy that's really trying to avoid recession have some concern around that. And then kind of lost in the mix of that, ADP came out with a hot jobs report today. It was better than expected. And I think the fear added to the debt rating is that the Fed's going to continue to have to raise rates based on the job market. So we'll see as the week goes on when the U.S. job markets report comes out on Friday. But that's really what happened today.
All right. Thank you very much, John. Learn more about all the things that they can do for you over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 58 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock.
Four o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 87 degrees. Could see some showers this afternoon into the evening. And they got a chance for showers every day until this upcoming Monday. Complete weather and traffic in 5 minutes. A lockdown and search for a reported gunman at the U.S. Capitol has turned up no results. At a news briefing this afternoon, Capitol Police Chief Thomas Menger says authorities received a call at about 2:30 Eastern time this afternoon about an active shooter wearing body armor. But a thorough search of the premises turned up nothing, and no one inside of the building reported hearing shots or seeing the gunman, leading police to believe that it may have been a bogus call.
The original lookout was for a heavyset Hispanic male wearing body armor. But again, no one's actually, we get no other information, no confirmation of that.
And they have now started to bring people back into those buildings after clearing them. Right now in Middle Tennessee, an air and ground search underway in Williamson County for a man suspected of stabbing 2 people overnight. According to the Williamson County Sheriff's Office, deputies are looking for 50-year-old Ronnie Johnson in connection to those 2 stabbings. A Sheriff's Department helicopter is involved in the search in the area of Duplex Road and Lee Road. Johnson is described as a black man with a bald head, standing approximately 5'6" and weighing between 150 and 170 pounds. He's considered armed and dangerous. If you see him, do not approach and call 911. Now over to some money news. A Wall Street ratings agency downgrading the U.S. credit rating. Fitch Ratings, citing increased federal debt and 20 years of declining standards of governance in the United States. Karen Travers has the reaction from Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who spoke today in Virginia.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said Wednesday she strongly disagrees with the decision by Fitch to downgrade the U.S. credit rating, saying it's based on outdated data.
Fitch's decision is puzzling in light of the economic strength we see in the United States. I strongly disagree with Fitch's decision, and I believe it is entirely unwarranted.
Yellen pointed to job growth, an unemployment rate of 3.6%, and declines in inflation as indicators that the U.S. economy is strong.
And a nationwide manhunt now underway for victims of a 29-year-old man who police say kidnapped and held a Washington state woman inside of a makeshift cell at his home. Alex Stone.
It's a case that even seasoned investigators say has shocked them. 29-year-old Nagasi Zuberi under arrest, accused of posing as a cop and kidnapping a woman from Seattle, sexually assaulting her, shackling her, driving to his home in Oregon, and holding her in a makeshift cinder block cell in his garage. The FBI's Stephanie Shark says Zuberi could have numerous other victims.
We believe there are more victims, as well as persons out there who might have vital information.
Zuberi has lived in a bunch of states, and it's believed victims could be spread from coast to coast.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and this is The Drive for Wednesday, August 2nd. Hour number 2 underway now. The good news is that apparently they did have some concerns in Washington that a Senate office building may have been compromised by an active shooter. And that has now been resolved. Mac Morey's in the newsroom there. Mac, it looks like they have done their due diligence, and I think this is what happens in the event that you get a call like that. It's you just out of an abundance of caution, do everything you can to make sure there is no active shooter, even if it means evacuating the building.
Yeah, obviously you got to take all sort of precaution here, Brian, and that's what they did. All buildings were evacuated for almost 2 hours. They went through and searched. They didn't, and through their interviews with everyone, they didn't see anyone that said, hey, I heard these shots. I saw this gunman with body armor that was reported in that call, which has led officials to believe that it was bogus. But obviously that investigation does go on.
Well, it was they started in the Russell Building, which is the oldest of the buildings directly across the street from the Capitol, but connected to the Capitol by a tunnel. So anytime you have a problem in the building, there's great concern, right? Well, then the other thing is that the other buildings, the Senate office buildings, the next one is Dirksen, and then the last one is Hart, and they are all connected by tunnels. So if you you really need to be completely thorough, you've got to evacuate all three of those buildings, and that's a massive undertaking. But apparently they have done it. They've gone through. They believe everything is okay, and that there is no active shooter. Good news there. Turning our attention back to Nashville. Tomorrow is Election Day. Is that right? Yeah, tomorrow, Thursday, is Election Day in Nashville to decide who our next mayor will be. The reign of Mayor Munchkin is almost over.
No, you still can't call him that. Just a couple more days, and I guess you could then.
No, I know. The mayor formerly known as Mayor Munchkin.
All right, thank you.
He's about done. And the question is who? I mean, all God's children wanted to be mayor. Apparently there were 12 candidates who ran and who have run in the first round. And there's a poll out here, TennesseeStar.com has reports on a poll conducted for Tennesseans for Student Success by Victory Phones. I've never heard of this organization. And their take on it, they say that Councilmember Freddie O'Connell leads the Nashville mayor race with 25.4% of the vote, according to this poll. I guess it's a phone poll. And again, take it with a grain of salt because these Nashville polls have a history of not being very accurate. Trailing O'Connell in the poll is Alice Rowley, 18.8%, Matt Wilshire, 14.6%, Jeff Yarborough, 13.1%, Heidi Campbell, 5.9%, Sharon Hurt, 3.6%, Vivian Wilhoit, 3.4%, and Fran Bush, 0.8%. 14.5% of respondents said they would vote for someone else other than the 12. It measured 500 voters and has a margin of error of 4.38%. O'Connell's lead in this poll is notable compared to an earlier poll conducted by the same institution in May, where he came in third place, trailing Campbell at the time, who had a very strong lead. In fact, when I went through those numbers, the thing I was surprised about is that Heidi Campbell did not show up well in this most recent poll when she did show up fairly well in the first poll. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you there's probably going to be a runoff. Nobody gets to 50%, it seems, when there are that many candidates that are running. From WTVF, Channel 5, there is a good chance the Nashville mayor election won't be decided Thursday on election night, and there will be a runoff. 99.9% likely, according to some analysts. 50% is what a single candidate needs to win the general election and avoid a runoff, but that isn't likely with this many candidates in the race. Everything goes back to the charter, according to experts. started 60 years ago when Nashville city limit signs went down and the Metro Nashville signs went up. The authors of the Metro Charter specifically wanted the runoff in there because they felt an election between the two top candidates would give us the best candidate. Under the practice, Nashville mayor candidates don't have to run in a political primary. They all run against each other in the general election. If one candidate doesn't get more than 50%, it triggers an automatic runoff between the top two finishers. Otherwise, you get these races with 5, 6, 7, or 12 people who get 20% of the vote. Do you want to be mayor with only 20% of the vote from the last election? That doesn't really give you a mandate, does it? According to some experts, you may start seeing some of the frontrunners pull back on spending so they can save a little money for the runoff, because they can't technically start raising money for the runoff until they're in the runoff, but they can hold on to money they had from the regular campaign and pull it out and use it there. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how it all happens. And we'll watch it. We'll watch it and bring those results to you here on Super Talk, of course. But ere long, the city of Nashville will have another, and with any luck at all, it'll be somebody easily mocked. That's what I'm hoping for here. I just want to be honest about it. My real interest in this is having somebody that I can mock.
Aiming low, are you?
I've had a pretty good run. I mean, since I got to town, I've had a pretty good run of mayors to mock.
That's true.
It's been an embarrassment of riches. So we'll see what happens here. I mean, we had Megan Barry.
Boy, she was fun.
And you know, that was when I barely was in the door.
That's right.
In fact, I wasn't even in the door. I was just a fill-in back then, filling in, and then all of this Megan Barry stuff happened. And I'm going, wow, that's interesting. And then we got Mayor Cellophane for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor Cellophane, who, you know, that was the boringest politician known to mankind, because you could look right through him and never know he was there. And then we got Mayor Cooper, Minnie Cooper.
That's right.
Okay. So all I care about is that I've got somebody. I need a punching bag. You know, I need somebody that can carry on the ridicule. So that's what I'm hoping for. Now, I don't know. Good luck to all the candidates. In other news that is Nashville related, we have a debate going on with the current council as to whether or not they will continue the license plate readers in Nashville. The future of license plate readers in Nashville unknown, but the issue continues to divide law enforcement and community leaders. During Tuesday's joint Metro Council Public Health, Safety, Transportation, and Infrastructure Committee meeting, representatives from the Metro Police Department, District Attorney's Office, Nashville Community Oversight Board, Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition, as well as a public defender, presented information on the LPRs to the council. Metro Police said the 6-month pilot program, which ended on July 22nd, was a success. They said 71 million license plates were read by cameras and 112 arrests were made. Officers said the camera helped track down stolen vehicles and guns and helped to get dangerous criminals off the street. We can work smarter. We put an LPR there. It's cheaper. It doesn't take a vacation, and it does it more accurately than we can, said Greg Blair, deputy chief at Metro Police. They want these things because they know how effective they can be in trying to track down crime. Representatives from the DA's office agreed the cameras are indeed are needed to help bring justice to crime across the city. So you got a good read out there from from Jenny Charles, an assistant DA. But the Nashville Community Oversight Board, are they still in effect? Are they still there? Said they don't want to see Music City become surveillance city. They presented data that showed the cameras were not equally distributed through the city. Well, you know why they're not equally distributed through the city. They're distributed in the places where you expect to find the most crime. And they keep statistics on that. This is mathematics. It's not, anything that is driven by some kind of prejudice or bias. You put the license plate readers where you expect to find crime. And it's not a surprise that some communities have more crime than others. People are concerned about the use of LPRs and their placement in low-income, non-white areas of the city, said Jill Fitchherd, an executive director of the Nashville Community Oversight Board. Representatives from the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition also expressed concerns about the technology. So the Metro Council members decided to hold off on voting on LPRs until they can have more time to review the data, and they will revisit the issue at the next council meeting on August 15th, 13 days from now. Okay, I know people get mad when I say this. I like the LPRs. I think they have a pretty good history of actually helping get bad people off the streets. There's been not one allegation, not one single allegation that the system has been misused. You have to have a criminal case attached to the license plate that you're searching for. If you don't have the criminal case, it doesn't search for that license plate. So I think if the goal to make our community safer is job one, and I think that's the job of any law enforcement organization, to have the license plates readers, if it helps get bad people off the streets and in jail and locks up the bad guys, then I'm for it. And I know people think it's an invasion of privacy, but let me just disabuse you of that. Supreme Court ruling. You have no expectation of privacy once you leave the confines of your home. And finally, Metro Council has passed a new commission for cycling and pedestrian safety. It's a common play among those who live in Nashville. Nashville can be a dangerous place to walk or ride a bike. And so they have passed a new commission. There's a new commission. Let's get a blue ribbon commission to study cycling and pedestrian safety. And I'll tell you what will happen. Have a blue ribbon commission, have this commission, have them study the matter. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Have them study the matter, and what you're going to find is that the most important thing you can tell bicyclists is to stay out of the way. Keep your bicycle out of my lane of traffic. And pedestrians, keep your head out of your phone so that you don't step in front of cars.
What about the scooters?
I don't know. But all I can tell you is I think that ultimately this is not going to end well. You're going to have now a body that has the support of the council that's going to be coming in with all these special rules and regulations we need to have to accommodate the cyclist, and there just ain't that dang many of them. It is now 20 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, you got to pay attention. This is a good one. Genesis Diamond opening up the vault with their largest GIA diamond event ever. Starting Saturday for a limited time, all Genesis GIA diamond engagement rings will be marked down 20%. That's 20% below Genesis's already unbeatable price. This means you can buy like a dealer buys, with deep discounts on over $10 million in stunning diamond rings. These remarkable savings are on every GIA diamond engagement ring from a half carat to 20 carats, all shapes too. Rounds, princess cuts, cushion cuts, emerald cuts, ovals, pairs, and whatever you got. Remember, all Genesis diamonds are hand-picked. They come straight from the diamond cutter and are graded by the GIA, the most prestigious gem lab in the world. At Genesis, you know their everyday prices are unbeatable, but for this event, they're taking the value to a whole different level with an additional 20% savings. So don't miss the chance to save like never before on that exquisite diamond ring. Buy like a dealer buys, starting Saturday for a limited time, exclusively at Genesis Diamonds. Limit one per customer, please. Green Hills and Cool Springs. See the store for details.
Nothing found after a lockdown at United States Capitol buildings due to what seems like a falsely reported active shooter call. A suspect in Williamson County now in custody, and today's money news. Those stories and more coming up 4:30. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, it is 25 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Listen, not a good day on the markets, as we told you a short while ago. Dow Jones Industrial Average was down almost a full point today, about 348 points, about a full percent. S&P down about 1.33%, almost 1.4%. NASDAQ down more than 2%. All very much in the red. And what was this? Well, it was the downgrading of the United States credit reference. Credit score, I guess it is. You know, we all have a credit score, right? Well, so does the federal government, and they have downgraded it a significant notch, and this is a surprise. Let's see, the stock sell-off hit mode today. Let's see, the last time the U.S. got a downgrade from a major ratings agency was in 2011, when Standard & Poor cut the rating from AA+ from AAA. Investors may use this Fitch downgrade as a reason to take some profits, but according to some analysts, it was probably a natural part of the market cycle anyway after a strong run. The economic picture continues to show signs of resilience, according to some experts. But, you know, you've got to, when you hear a major agency like Fitch downgrade the U.S. Credit worthiness, doesn't that make us a little nervous, especially when we all inherently know that government is spending too much money, is not living within its means, and that we're just continuing to print money to solve the problem, and then we go to loans from the Chinese. I mean, how long can we hold up in this cycle? At some point, don't the chickens come home to roost on this stuff? I mean, you got to wonder. Everyone who reads the newspaper knows that the United States has a very serious long-term fiscal problem. That wasn't a quote by some financial talking head. It was a reaction by then Chairman of the Federal Reserve, Ben Bernanke, the last time a major rating agency took the action back in August of 2011. This, according to the Wall Street Journal. Investors could Google hundreds of such warnings over the decade and conclude that the hand-wringing is best ignored, or should you ignore it? I mean, is this the one? Investors are drawing false comfort from the past and from the perception that the physical scolds have always turned into a cry of wolf. And so, is this the one? Is this the one we got to pay attention to, or do we just go rocking right along? I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert on this kind of stuff, I can tell you, but you got to wonder. I mean, just think about common sense. You and I can't spend money we don't have. You and I, if we do that, we get a very low credit rating. Why should the United States government be any different? I mean, if indeed they continue to spend money like drunken sailors, if they continue to spend more money than they have coming in, if you and I did that, we'd be bankrupt inside of a very short period of time. But the federal government, they just keep cranking it out, Everybody just hums and looks away and says, oh, I don't, nothing to worry about here, nothing to see. I don't know. I think we should take these kind of things quite seriously. I think we should look at them and say, you know what? Are we doing the right things? Does this not get the attention of Washington, D.C.? No, it doesn't. And you know why? Wilson's rule of what happens in Washington. Congress does not act, it reacts. And so, we've heard these things before, nothing to worry about, there'll probably be no problem. And then all of a sudden it is a problem. I just think that we should perhaps take a pause and try to get the attention of our elected leaders that we can't keep going down the road to ruin. We simply can't continue to spend as much money as we've been spending without more coming in. Something's got to give. I think this is the credit services blinking a yellow light. Warning, warning, warning. 4:30 now at Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 91 degrees right now in Nashville. Some rain expected here tonight, tomorrow, and for the next few days. Full weather forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. A lockdown and search for a reported gunman at the U.S. Capitol has turned up no results. At a news briefing this afternoon, Capitol Police Chief Thomas Manger said authorities received a call at about 2:30 Eastern Time this afternoon about an active shooter that was wearing body armor. But a thorough search of the premises turned up nothing, and no one inside that building reported hearing shots or seeing a gunman, which led police to believe that it may have been a bogus call. Still, the chief says that the response was swift.
We responded within seconds. We had a group there, a group of officers there.
And they're now reopening those buildings and letting people back in. Here in Tennessee, a suspect now in custody. Suspect Roni Johnson, who is accused of stabbing 2 people, is now in custody. The stabbing took place overnight in the area of Duplex Road and Lee Road. A helicopter was deployed for that search. Now over to the money news. Daria Albinger lets us know what happened in today's market.
Stocks took a tumble on word Uncle Sam's credit has been dinged. The Dow plunged 348 points, the Nasdaq gave up 310, and the S&P closed down 63. Stocks tanked today after Fitch downgraded the U.S. government's credit for the first time since 2011. The ratings agency blamed a steady deterioration in standards of governance over the past 2 decades, even with that last-minute deal to avoid a debt default. Worries about a recession also played a part. Despite the drop from AAA to AAA plus, though, U.S. credit is still investment grade. Still like to do your income taxes old school? Time is running out on those paper forms. The IRS is planning to go paperless by 2025 as part of its campaign to conquer mountains of paperwork. That means that you'll be able to submit almost all tax documents and other communications to the taxman digitally by next year.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather are on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, let me talk about the Wellness Institute of Nashville and welcome Chris Weber, the producer of this program, as somebody who speaks on behalf of the Wellness Institute of Nashville. You had a recent opportunity to go down there, Chris, and take a look around. Quite a facility, right?
Yeah, I was extremely impressed with the technology that's in that place. It is really something.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, I've been not only someone who speaks on behalf of the Wellness Institute of Nashville, but I've been someone who has actually undergone treatment there with a non-surgical spinal decompression. Now, they've got that, which can help you if you have pain in your arms, your legs, your neck, your arms, or maybe a tingling in some of those extremities. But it can also help you, with the pain that you have. And they've got another thing out there that's called the KT machine, first of its kind. Sort of like spinal decompression, but it's aimed at helping your knee. It gently stretches the knee and the joint and allows the meniscus and the cartilage to receive the healing therapy without the need for surgery or painkillers. So if any of this sounds like something that you think you would benefit from, then you got to start with a phone call, 615-246-5009. That's 615-246-5009. And as always, you can learn more about the things they can do for you at the Wellness Institute of Nashville simply by going to their website, painisbad.com. "38 minutes now, past the hour of 4 o'clock. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air. You're listening to The Drive. Thank you for being with us. Okay. We've talked about all of the stuff that came down with Donald Trump. Let's talk about the continued fallout in the Biden investigation as well, because there are things that are still happening with regard to that. Top House Republicans are now claiming that Devon Archer's testimony, I don't want to use the word testimony. I'm just being a stickler here. It wasn't under oath. It was a conversation that was transcribed, and therefore, I don't know if you call it testimony or just his statement, but it is not under oath. He basically, though, they believe that the things that Devon Archer told them in that session is a roadmap for the next steps in the Biden investigation. The crime is selling access to our federal government to adversaries around the world, and this family has been actively doing that for 2 decades. Just stop for a moment. Can we just stop for a moment? Joe Biden is accused of selling out his country, of accepting basically a bribe. And there's a considerable amount of evidence that suggests that there was a family enterprise designed to do exactly that, to sell access to world ne'er-do-wells. I mean, none of these people that were business partners of Hunter Biden were sterling business people. These were the worst of the worst. These were the real thugs of the business world internationally. And if we were selling influence, isn't that a hell of a lot more than Donald Trump being charged basically for exercising his First Amendment rights in a way that the Justice Department does not like? Just saying. One of these things is not like the other. So House Republicans are saying that the testimony from Devon Archer gives them a roadmap about how to go forward and what areas they need to look at next. Archer, a former Hunter business associate, testified that Biden was being pressured in December 15th to do something about Viktor Shokin, a Ukrainian prosecutor who was investigating Burisma Holdings, the Ukraine energy firm for which they both worked. In the same month, then Vice President Joe Biden began applying pressure in a series of moves that got Shokin fired. We've heard him talk about this. Do I need to play the soundbite again? We've played it endlessly. Archer also reported that the House Oversight Committee, to which he gave closed-door testimony, Burisma would not have survived had it not been for the influence of the Biden family. Now, Chairman James Comer and the staff are likely to attempt to conduct transcribed interviews with the individuals who were executives at Burisma when Shokin was removed. In addition, Comer has been looking into payments made to the Biden family from a Chinese energy company based on subpoenaed financial records. Following Archer's testimony, Comer said he's going to attempt to interview Biden family members such as James Biden, the president's brother. Comer said James was one of the payment recipients according to financial records. So that gives you a sort of a roadmap. Just stay tuned, he says. You know, this is a crime family. It really is. And the crime is selling access to our federal government to adversaries around the world. And this family has been actively doing that for 2 decades. And Joe Biden knew every single player that was involved in sending those wires. Comer also plans to further investigate the sales of Hunter Biden's artwork. Well, that's a scam. That's an absolute scam. Every American should be insulted by Joe Biden thinking that they're just going to believe no special interest or foreign nationals are the buyer of that artwork. The Kentucky Republican said some of the artwork might have been sold to buyers affiliated with China. Yeah, I mean, how do you help out the family? You buy that worthless art for an outrageous amount of money. I mean, after all, who's to say what is art is subjective? I've looked at Hunter Biden's art. I don't think it's art, but, you know, it's in the eye of the beholder. How do you prove that somebody bought it, paid an outrageous amount of money because they just thought it was the greatest piece of artwork they ever saw? This is an art. Look, there are many Americans who have great art collections. And I don't think that people who have truly great art collections are clamoring for a piece, the latest Hunter Biden exhibit. Stop it. Don't be ridiculous. Now, there is something else. Let me go through this. Joe Biden met with Hunter's business associates 16 times. Now, this comes from the GOP research wing, but it's based on their research, and it's accurate. Just because it comes from them doesn't mean it's not accurate. November of 2010, Joe Biden had a sit-down meeting with Eric Schwerin, the president of Hunter's private equity firm. November 2011, Joe Biden met with Chris Hines, co-founder of Hunter's private equity firm in the West Wing. March of 2012, Joe Biden met with Andre Pastrana Arango, the former president of Colombia, who Hunter Biden was doing business with at his personal residence. December 2013, Hunter flew with Joe Biden aboard Air Force Two to China, where he introduced him to Jonathan Lee, a Chinese businessman. February 2014, Joe Biden had lunch with Hunter and 2 of Hunter's Mexican business partners and was pictured giving them a tour of the White House. It goes on and on. I got another 10 or 12 of these things. 2017, Joe met with family business partner Tony Bobulinski twice. June 2018, Joe Biden texted Hunter saying that he was with Jeff Cooper, a family business partner, and that Cooper wanted to do some work with him. He was actively involved, and this is the evidence of that. Just the meetings that we know of. He can't say that he wasn't actively involved because it is inherently becoming clear that he was involved. And how do the American people look at this? If he was bribed, Biden must go. From Tip Insights. As the Biden corruption probe broadens and more evidence comes to the fore of possible bribery of the Biden family by foreign powers, a question arises: what do Americans think should be done if the allegations are true? The overwhelming response: Biden should leave or be removed from office and not run again. Our online poll, 1,341 adults taken in early July, margin of error 2.7 percentage points. Biden is not likely to weather this political storm as it stands. A strong majority, 63% in the poll, suggested President Joe Biden should either be impeached, 33%, resign immediately, 30%, if the charges prove true. Just 20% said Biden should stay in office and run again if he wishes to do so. Another 17% had no opinion. Devin Archer sat down with Tucker Carlson, and here is a compendium of some of the things that happened during that interview, which Tucker put out there on it's not Twitter, it's X. They call it Tucker on Twitter, but he's not on Twitter, he's on X, right?
What were the specific skills that he brought to clients?
Well, at the end of the day, he had a career in Washington, graduated Yale Law School, and had a very big network in D.C., and brought that know-how and understanding of D.C. and ultimately the Biden brand.
It's been reported, and you have said that there were occasions when Joe Biden would call in with clients present on a speakerphone.
Right.
How many times do you think that happened?
I mean, over a 10-year partnership, I would, the number I'm going with is 20. That's probably the amount that I kind of reckon. Yeah, a lot.
What is that? A grown man calling his dad on a speakerphone during a business meeting?
Right, and to be clear, sometimes the call was coming in and the speaker would go on. I could definitively say at particular dinners or meetings, he knew there were business associates, and or if I was there, I was a business associate too. Yeah, at times there were. From the, to be, completely clear on the calls, I don't know if it was an orchestrated call in or not. It certainly was powerful, though, because, if you're sitting with a foreign business person and you hear the vice president's voice, that's prize enough. I mean, that's pretty impactful. I mean, you understand DC, right? So the power to have that access in that conversation, and it's not in a scheduled conference call, and it's a part of your family, that's like the pinnacle of power.
You're taking a call from the vice president and you put it on speaker. It's not just, hey, Dad, I'm in a meeting with some buddies.
Right.
It's, let me put my dad, the vice president, on speaker.
Yeah. Yep. In the rear view, it's an abuse of soft power, I'd say.
Just the fact that they laid the phone on the table and speed dialed Dad, the big guy, it really tells you a little bit about what was going on. You're never going to have them be stupid enough to talk about sensitive matters on an international phone call, which is being recorded by the NSA. But what you have here is a demonstration that Hunter Biden had the juice. In other words, people were saying, why should I spend millions of dollars with you? Can you really deliver the goods that I need? You see, and I think that, Hunter Biden made the case that, yes, he could. Dad's on speed dial. Here, let's call Dad now. The fact that he got Dad on the phone in, 10 seconds is a suggestion that, that he had the juice. And then, when he could point to things that he had done, like getting Shokin fired, getting the prosecutor fired, then he has more cachet when he goes to the other clients around the world. Said, yeah, well, let me give you an example of what we were able to do for our friends at Burisma. This is selling out access to our government. He was the sitting vice president of the United States through much of this. And he was doing the bidding of his son. His son would meet with people They would explain what the problem was, and then all of a sudden, as Biden has said, things happened. He's very very clear on the fact that once he got involved, things could happen.
Well, son of a bitch got fired, and they put in place someone who was solid.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I'm telling you, it was a shakedown organization. They were shaking down people, and they were buying influence, and the influence was, I can get Dad on speed dial, and we can do your bidding, just like we did at Burisma. 51 minutes now, past the hour, 4 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios, and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, it's backed by a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
It's been dry for a few days, but not long ago we had a lot of rain. And if you've noticed that maybe at your house you have structural foundation issues or waterproofing issues that came with those heavy rains, you need to give the folks over at USS a call, United Structural Systems. They will come out to your house, assess your situation, and they will give you their best advice. That's what they do. You see, they're not out to sell you something you don't need. Honestly, I understand why you're confused because it can be difficult. You're not an expert in this particular area of engineering. And you need somebody who's going to give it to you straight, and they have a great reputation. Over 25,000 satisfied residential customers. They come out, they tell you what they think you should do, and if you decide to go forward, you don't pay a penny till the job is done and you are completely satisfied. 25 years in this area, and some of the employees have been there since day one. Listen, USS, they guarantee our best. They give your best every time. Serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com, or call this number, 615-488-7855.
It's 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 86 degrees, a cloudy day in the mid-state. Some scattered showers and storms possible throughout this evening into early tomorrow morning. Complete weather forecast, latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. No shooter found 2 hours after Capitol Police received a call, for a 911 call about an armed man wearing body armor inside the U.S. Capitol. A thorough search of the premises turned up nothing. And at a news conference this afternoon, Capitol Police Chief Thomas Manger said the incident can be tracked back to one 911 call, and no one inside the building reported seeing or hearing anything firsthand.
I think at this point we can say that we've found no confirmation that there was an active shooter and that this may have been a bogus call.
All buildings since have been reopened. In Tennessee, students in Wilson County had to wait for over an hour for their school bus to arrive. Channel 4's Brendan Tierney lets us know what is causing this problem and how they're fixing it.
School leaders say the massive bus delays Wilson County families dealt with on the first day of classes are completely unacceptable, and they're working to fix them. Right now, the Transportation Department is rewriting schedules that were designed to work around the bus driver shortage. They say it didn't go as planned yesterday. The biggest problem was with buses on double routes, and they were not able to keep parents updated.
School leaders said it went better this morning, but there's still a long way to go. Some crime in the state. A 34-year-old man accused of sexually assaulting 2 teenage girls has been taken into custody after being featured on the Metro Nashville Police Department's top 10 most wanted list. Kenneth Harris was wanted on outstanding warrants for 2 counts of sexual battery and domestic assault, according to police. He first appeared on the police department's most wanted list on July 19th, although those charges against him date back as far as December of 2022. Right now in Nashville, votes on license plate reader legislation is on hold while Metro Council members take more time to review data from the recent 6-month pilot program. But if you ask residents like Irma Johnson in the Haynes Park Neighborhood Association, there's nothing to review.
We know what it does for us in our neighborhood, how it deters any crimes that, people that want to do something, they know the cameras are here, which means that they may decide to go someplace else.
And this just in, breaking news from Channel 4. A man was shot in the leg at the Casey Holmes neighborhood, expected to survive. We'll keep you updated with that right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. 6 minutes, almost 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. We're kicking off hour number 3 of The Drive. Thank you for being a part of what we do here on Super Talk 99.7 each day. Greatly appreciate that you are willing to spend time with us. Maybe you're trying to get home. Maybe you're just out driving around. Whatever it is, we're glad that you're tuned in and you're listening to The Drive. Now, yesterday, the big story was that there were more indictments brought against Donald Trump. Now, I told you my initial read on it was I'm no lawyer, but as I looked at it, it seemed like the allegations that were leveled by Special Counsel Jack Smith against Donald Trump looked pretty thin gruel, it looked like to me, and one that suggested that if you are a sitting president, you don't have the right to express yourself in America, that without running the risk of being indicted. Do you remember in 2016, when the Democrats were losing their minds over the fact that Donald Trump was the president? They were going crazy. And there were all kinds of Democrats who challenged the outcome of the election, who came on and said, no, there were problems with this. And then but nobody on that side of the equation got indicted, did they, for making the suggestion? And they probably believed it. I believe Donald Trump believed in the days following the election that indeed he had been hornswoggled out of a re-election effort. He believed it. He believed with every fiber in his being. He was hearing from certain people who felt that way. And he expressed that. No matter how it turns out, whether he was right or whether he was wrong, didn't he have the right to express what he truly believed? And I think he did believe. I want to read from you the Washington Examiner editorial from the staff today. Raises some really good questions. The attack on our nation's capital was an unprecedented assault on the seat of democracy, Special Counsel Jack Smith said on Tuesday as he unveiled his latest indictment of former President Donald Trump. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies by the defendant. This is a quote. Lies by the defendant targeted or obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government. But there is nothing, the Washington Examiner writes, in the indictment that ties Trump to the attack. More than 1,000 people have been charged for the violence of January 6, 2021. Some have even been charged with conspiracy to forcibly prevent Joe Biden from taking office. This indictment does not allege that Trump was involved in any of those acts of violence. So what does the indictment allege? Allege doesn't mean that they can prove it. Is that he made false statements about and this somehow was part of a conspiracy. Okay, let's raise a couple of things. I've already told you about 2016. There were a lot of Democrats who raised concerns. Citing the honestly held beliefs of their constituents that there was widespread voter fraud, 11 Republican senators and senators-elect signed a joint statement on January 2nd, 2021, calling for a delay of the January 6th certification. Both before and after January 6th, Trump endorsed this course of action. By the logic of the indictment and prevailing conspiracy law, those senators should then be brought up on charges. Why weren't they? Well, because that's nonsense. They were expressing an opinion. This is nothing more than a political indictment designed to silence dissent from what the powers that decide it is truth. I'm going to read that again. I think it really gets to it. This is from the editorial from the Washington Examiner. This is nothing more than a political indictment designed to silence dissent from what the powers that be decide is truth. If enough government scientists and officials tell lawmakers that vaccines prevent the spread of a disease or a virus that did not originate in a lab, at what point are lawmakers considered liars if they continue to say they believe otherwise? This is nonsense. This is complete and utter nonsense. To bring a charge against Donald Trump for expressing a belief that he held. Now, it may have been a correct belief. It may have been an incorrect belief, depending on how you look at it, but one way or the other. Who is Jack Smith to determine what was in the mind of Donald Trump? John Lauro speaks for behalf of Donald Trump as one of his attorneys. And there's a fascinating interview that was done with him on CNN. You probably haven't heard this. It was John Lauro versus Caitlin Collins. And I think when you hear the logic of Donald Trump's lawyer explaining why this thing doesn't make any sense, I think you're going to agree. Here is John Lauro speaking to Caitlin Collins. John Lauro, one of Trump's attorneys.
The ultimate request that Mr. Trump made to Vice President Pence was pause the vote counting, allow the states to weigh in ultimately and audit or recertify. And under Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2, the actual responsibility for qualifying electors is in the state legislatures. Mr. Trump had the advice of counsel, Mr. Eastman, who was one of the most respected constitutional scholars in the United States, giving him advice and guidance. That's pure politics. You may disagree with it, and people have spirited arguments about the law all the time, and that's why lawyers are in business. But we've never had a situation where a spirited debate about the Constitution has become a criminal case. What's going to happen when there's a Republican administration? Is there going to be an effort to criminalize speech by Democrats? Is there going to be an effort to characterize something that a Democrat politician says that's not that doesn't meet some kind of truth standard at the Department of Justice? That's going to be the subject of a criminal indictment? We've now entered a constitutional abyss as a result of this indictment. There were states where ballots were sent out without people asking for them, where there were changes in verification, where there were instances where ballots were not being supervised at drop-off places. The president was told, given advice, that under these circumstances, the state legislatures have the ultimate ability to qualify electors. He followed that advice. Now, you may disagree as to whether or not those things actually occurred or not. That's why we have political debate. We don't have criminal trials over that. We have the discussion like we're just having.
But it matters if those things actually occurred or not, John.
Not under the First Amendment.
But it matters if those things actually occurred because...
Not at all, because under the First Amendment...
It does matter if there was actually fraud.
No, the First Amendment allows...
But John, let me stop you there, because if he's saying that there was fraud, the First Amendment doesn't allow the President of the United States to go and claim there was fraud when he was told there was not fraud, and then try to subvert the election by overturning legitimate electors. I mean...
If we're going to have a situation where the Department of Justice is going to fact-check politicians and indict politicians for political speech and whether or not they're factually accurate, then this country will shut down politically, because it's a never-ending cycle of tit for tat. And that's the risk of injecting politics into the criminal justice system. So right now, people disagree with President Trump. What's going to happen 4 years from now if somebody disagrees with President Biden in terms of what he said during the election? That's why we don't criminalize political speech. Political speech under the First Amendment has an almost absolute protection. Nobody gets to judge whether it's true or not, except the American people. And we do that in an election. We do that in an election. We do that in the case of a president by impeachment, but we don't indict people for speech.
All right, now let me just add a little caveat to that. I agree with everything that John Lauro was saying there. This is about what the president said, and it was political speech, which is protected mightily by the Constitution. Political speech, perhaps, is the most important of all kinds of speech. And he had a belief based on things he was hearing. Now, you can say, well, he was right or he was wrong. One way or the other, he believed it. He was out there asking for a delay. He was getting guidance from constitutional experts about all this. And he may have been right or he may have been wrong, but one way or the other, it was his opinion. He's allowed to have it. He's allowed to act upon it and to express his opinion. Now, let me add the caveat here. I don't think that this is a very strong case. I think this is pretty thin gruel. I think that ultimately Jack Smith has way overstretched himself. He's grasping at straws in this particular charge, and there's a lot of people who've looked at it. Jonathan Turley and Andrew McCarthy and a whole bunch of different people look at it and say it's just there's not much there. But how did he get the indictment? Well, it's the District of Columbia. It's a very, I forget, I got to look up the statistics on this, but my memory is it's about 7 Democrats to every 3 Republicans in the District of Columbia. So, it's not difficult to find a very blue grand jury to bring the indictment. And by the same standard, it's, this will be where they get the jury pool from if there is a trial. So I'm not saying that they can't get a conviction, but what I'm saying is they shouldn't get a conviction, and on appeal, no doubt, I believe Donald Trump will prevail. But one way or the other, this is the process that we are now facing. A president expresses his opinion and says that, he believes certain things have happened. He is getting information that he chooses to listen to that suggests that, that the election has been stolen from him, and he wants a slowdown of the process. That's what he asked for based on what he knew. And how is Jack Smith going to prove on any level that Donald Trump didn't believe it, was saying this things that he didn't believe? How can you prove that? And do you? I think he absolutely believed it. So I don't know. I think it's thin. I think it's weak. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Ultimately, he will prevail. But remember, it's the District of Columbia, and Lord knows what can happen. Jack Smith has made a mistake very quickly. Let me get this in before we hit the break. Special Counsel Jack Smith made a startling admission in its case against Donald Trump, acknowledging in a new court filing that it failed to turn over all evidence to Mr. Trump's legal team as required by law, while falsely claiming that it had. July 31st court filing, a classified documents case against the former president, said it had incorrectly claimed that it had provided all Mar-a-Lago surveillance footage to Mr. Trump. On July 27th, as part of preparation, we found that we had not. The government's representation at the July 18th hearing that all surveillance footage had pre-obtained pre-indictment had been produced was therefore incorrect. This is not allowed under the so-called Brady rule. Prosecutors in a criminal trial have a constitutional duty to disclose all evidence to a defendant's legal team, including information that is favorable to the accused that could reduce a potential sentence. But they didn't turn it all over. They said they made, honest mistake. Now, in a moment, Mike Pence has weighed in on all of this and had some things to say. I think some of this stuff is going to make you pretty angry, but we'll weigh in on that after we take a commercial break. It's 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's hard as we grow older to see our parents grow older as well, and some of our elderly family members are really getting to an age where they struggle with the day-to-day things in their lives, things that were once so simple and now more difficult, and we are reminded that they are approaching an age when they will need more and more help every day. Well, that's where assisted family care can help. They can connect you with a responsible, compatible helper to assist you with your loved one's daily needs. And if your loved one is a veteran or a spouse or a widow of a veteran, they could very well qualify for a little-known benefit to help cover these kinds of expenses. Assisted Family Care has years of experience in helping those in Middle Tennessee who qualify for the benefit to actually get it. You see, many veterans are eligible to receive up to 20 hours of daily living assistance each week at no cost to them. Not everyone's eligible, but if you're a veteran with wartime service, you could well qualify for the benefit for yourself or for your spouse. I want to warn you, the application process is daunting and confusing. but the folks at Assisted Family Care of Nashville have years of experience in cutting through the red tape to help veterans receive this benefit if eligible. That's right, Assisted Family Care can help. Assisted Family Care will be there for you. Just visit assistedfamilycare.com, assistedfamilycare.com, or call this number, 615-833-9725. It's 25 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. I've just been going through all of the stuff with the big indictment against Donald Trump yesterday. This stuff adds up on all of the different cases that are out there right now. So far, 78 counts against the former president. Boy, they really don't want him to be reelected, do they? Seems pretty clear. But I'm making the case that I think that the stuff that came out yesterday is pretty thin gruel. It basically says that a president can't have opinions that he expresses, political opinions that he expresses as president. That to do that apparently is a violation of the law. And that somehow Jack Smith seems to have figured out how to read the mind of Donald Trump to come to the conclusion that Donald Trump said things that he believed were not true. I don't know how you prove that. How do you prove that? How do you get into the mind of another individual? I don't know. Meanwhile, Mike Pence, who was Trump's vice president, running for president again, has apparently, and as part of this indictment, we've learned that Mike Pence had secret notes about his conversations with then President Trump, which apparently have made their way into the hands of Jack Smith. Pence's previously unreported notes are presented as evidence against Trump, who faces charges related to his actions after the 2020 presidential election. The defendant, well, anyway, we laid out all the stuff that you know what that whole case is about. But so you have Pence out there now apparently assisting the special prosecutor in this matter. And incidentally, he's making the case right now that he did what he had to do. He would do it all again. And he thinks that the former president should not be given another shot at the office.
Irrespective of the indictment, I want the American people to know that I had no right to overturn the election. And then on that day, President Trump asked me to put him over the Constitution. But I chose the Constitution, and I always will. I really do believe that anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. And anyone who asks someone else to put themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States again. Sadly, the president was surrounded by a group of crackpot lawyers that kept telling him what his itching ears wanted to hear. And while I made my case to him of what I understood my oath of the Constitution to require, the president ultimately, continued to demand that I choose him over the Constitution.
Well, I don't think this is going to pay out well for Pence. I don't think he's really going to be seriously considered by Republicans going forward. I think personally, my observation of the man, I think Mike Pence is an honorable guy. You can have a difference of opinion about this. He and the president did, and I don't know. We'll let history decide who was right and who was wrong. But I will say this about Pence is that, he's back out there trying to make the case, but this is not going to sell with Republican voters around the country. I mean, he's got, he's way behind. I have to look up the latest numbers to give you something that sort of expresses where we are on all this. But he's way behind DeSantis, who's way behind Trump. Let me just pull up the latest numbers real quick, and I can give you the exact number here. Nationally, right now, on average, Pence is coming in with 4% of the vote. 4% of the Republican primary voters say they would vote for Pence. 5% say they'll vote for Ramaswamy. 18% say they'll vote for DeSantis. But 53.9%, on average, 53.9% of Republican voters say they want Donald Trump as their nominee. So it's not going anywhere for the former vice president. And I think pretty soon we're going to start seeing. I think some of these names may start to fall off. But right now, Trump got a 35.8% lead over DeSantis. It's his until somebody else rises, and it doesn't seem like anybody else is rising. Everybody else seems to be fading. 30 minutes now, past the hour, 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
30 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 86 degrees, expecting some showers around Middle Tennessee tonight into early tomorrow morning. And showers are expected until this upcoming Monday. Complete forecast, latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. A lockdown and a search for a reported gunman at the U.S. Capitol has turned up no results. At a news briefing this afternoon, Capitol Police Chief Thomas Menger said authorities received a call at about 2:30 Eastern Time about an active shooter that was wearing body armor. A thorough search of the premises turned up nothing. No one was inside the building, and no one was reported hearing shots or seeing a gunman. And that led police to believe that it may have been a bogus call.
The original lookout was for a heavyset Hispanic male wearing body armor. But again, no one's actually, we get no other information, no confirmation of that.
And all buildings have since been reopened. And after months of trying to arrange a meeting, top officials from the United States and Chinese militaries have finally spoken to each other Andy Field.
For more than a year, the U.S. has had close military standoffs with China by air and sea. The Pentagon's repeatedly asked for direct contact with China's military to avoid all-out war. It has finally happened, with high-level officials from both sides talking again. They discussed U.S.-Chinese defense relations and other regional security, the United States urging China to keep those communication lines open to avoid any misunderstanding.
Money News, a Wall Street ratings agency, downgrading the U.S. credit rating. Fitch Ratings citing increasing federal debt and 20 years declining standards of governance. The United States government has about $31 trillion in debt, and that debt's growing. It's expected to exceed the total size of the U.S. economy. And as this downgrade takes place, it makes it potentially harder and more expensive for the government to borrow money. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, we're right in the middle of grilling season. If you're a fan of Legend Steakhouse like I am, you can enjoy some of those same flavors right at home, right on your very own grill. Just take a walk down your local grocery store aisle, places like Walmart, Kroger. Look for Johnny Fleeman's very own brand. You'll likely see his famous fruit tea at your local grocery store, along with salad dressings and Johnny Fleeman's steak marinades. You see, Johnny Fleeman's proprietary blend will give your steaks, chicken, or chops a flavor that will hit a home run with family and friends. It's low in sodium, about a third of the other brands, so you don't have to worry about over-marinating. You can also use his marinade to enhance almost any dish, your favorite rice recipe, fresh vegetables, just about anything. So if your favorite grocer isn't stocking Johnny Fleeman products, ask them to do so. Just go to johnnyfleeman.com for more information. And it goes without saying, for those times when you want someone else to do the cooking, they'll always be glad to see you at your nearest Legend Steakhouse for lunch or for dinner. 38 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air. I got a lot of woke news here today, but, we were going through this in the earlier hours, talking about some of the woke news. And it, still out there is this story about Bud Light and how it is absolutely, I'm telling you, it's devastating what has happened to the Anheuser-Busch company and how much market share they have lost by having this endorsement by Dylan Mulvaney. I'll read this story. Distributors are giving up on Bud Light, and they no longer expect that the beer giant can recover from the Dylan Mulvaney fiasco. Several distributors of Anheuser-Busch beer say they have accepted the fact that they've lost money, and a lot of it due to consumers boycotting Bud Light. It was the number one beer in America. But not just that, they've given up completely on trying to win back customers who have been negatively affected by the anti-American beer Dylan Mulvaney campaign. This according to the New York Post. Hiring freezes, layoffs could be going on for months. So my question, I'll read you some more about this, but I'd like to know from you, and I think this is a great question. Is there anything at this point that the Bud Light people could do that would persuade you to go back to drinking Bud Light? And I'll tell you why I have my doubts about that. But is there anything that they could possibly do that would change your opinion at this point? Extra credit if you were a former Bud Light drinker. I want to hear from you. But what would it take? Can you imagine? 615-737-9986. This is an unusual call segment because I'm really interested to know if there is anything, or is it just done? Is it just over for Bud Light as far as you are concerned? 615-737-9986. Get on the hotline right now. The folks over at Coors are taking full advantage of the situation. You know what they're asking? They're saying, would you rather drink the beer of Dylan Mulvaney or of Rip Wheeler? They have hired Cole Hauser, who plays the character Rip Wheeler, to be a spokesman for their beer, which I think is pretty good. Tough. He's a tough guy. If you don't know the show Yellowstone, you don't know anything about Rip Wheeler, but he's a tough guy. And so this resonates with a great number of people. I'll just throw this out. I'm not sure that you're ever going to get people back because I think ultimately they found another beer, and it's not that it doesn't offend their taste. They're not dying for a Bud Light when you've got a Miller Lite or a Coors Light that pretty much gets the job done. That it's not that there was something uber special about Bud Light. It was just it's what people got used to. But I think that in a sense they can now go to Miller Lite or Coors Light or any other number of beers. I don't think that they're all that excited about coming back. I don't feel like there's a desire for them to come back one way or the other, and I think that works against Anheuser-Busch in this matter. Let's see what you think about it. To the phone lines we go. Jeremy in Nashville. Jeremy, my question is this. Is there anything that you could do, that the Budweiser people could do that would bring you back?
At this point, I would have to say no. You're 100% right.
There's nothing. So tell me your experience. Were you a Bud Light drinker?
I was a Bud Light drinker, have been for the last 12 to 15 years. Bud Light was my go-to. It was a habit. I'm used to Bud Light. I'd go get Bud Light. But after at some point you got to stop and look at what they're forcing on our kids, on our society as a whole, what's right, what's wrong, and that's wrong. And at some point we got to stop and say, you know what, we're not going to stand for this anymore and move on to what is right.
Jeremy, what beer did you finally land on?
I'm a Coors Light guy now.
All right.
To be honest with you, I didn't like it before, but I do now.
All right, so your taste has adjusted by now. Okay, thank you for that, Jeremy. Branston on the road. Branston, you're on with Brian on the Drive. Branston, what do you think? Is there anything that the Anheuser-Busch people could do at this point that would help you change your mind, or are you just done?
Well, I'll tell you, I went as far as look and see what all beers Anheuser-Busch made and sold, and I made sure, because I drank a lot of Rolling Rock, and that was made by Anheuser-Busch.
Right.
And I switched over. I go for the other day, he got me on Yingling Flight. That's actually really good. I tried that the other day. Coors, Miller, anything by Anheuser-Busch, essentially.
All right, so, and there's nothing that they could do, no amends that they could make at this point.
Well, I feel like anything that they would do, they would just be doing it not out of heart, just out of financial reasons. I don't feel like in the heart that they would be truly doing it for the right reasons. So that's
all right.
That's kind of why I wouldn't go back to Anheuser-Busch.
All right, Branson. Listen, I think you're right. I mean, I think that, if it had been something about Bud Light that was remarkable beyond some of the other light beers, I think they might have had an opportunity there. But I think people tested the other products, and I think they're just fine with that. And they don't have any desire to come back. And they still have hard feelings. Justin in Spring Hill. Justin, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Justin?
Hey, Brian, how are you?
I'm fine. Is there anything that Anheuser-Busch could do that would change your mind, or are you just done?
Not really. I mean, Bud Light was a nasty beer anyway. I'm more of the designer beers and liquor person.
Yep.
But I think now people that have changed are saying, hey, that beer really tastes like crap. This is an actual good beer that I've never tried before. And, I mean, they goofed up by doing a bad ad campaign. And now they're going to pay the consequences for it.
All right, Justin, thank you for that. Darren in Nashville is up next. Darren, good afternoon. You're on the Drive with Brian. Darren, is there anything that Anheuser-Busch that could do that would change your mind at this point?
No, I truly believe that they were not going after a new market share or trying to reach out to new people. I truly believe they jumped on the woke bandwagon and trying to force this stuff on the American people, and it backfired horribly on them.
Were you a Bud Light drinker?
I was. I came from Montana, and I'll tell you, whenever we're out hiking or fishing or boating or anything, you walk into a little country store, and really all you could get is Bud Light or Budweiser for the most part.
Right.
But, but now it's like, I'm sure you recognize, you walk into stores all over the place, and it looks like it just got faced 5 minutes ago. There's not a can missing,
Yeah. So can you tell me where you ultimately landed? Which beer?
For my go-to beer, I would say for just regular would be something like Sam Adams or maybe a Summer Shandy or something that's readily available everywhere. I just tried my first Modelo at a barbecue on Saturday.
All right, Darren, thank you for that. I appreciate it. This is interesting. Nathan in Gallatin. Nathan, good afternoon. You're on the Drive with Brian Wilson. So, Nathan, is there anything that Anheuser-Busch could do at this point that could bring you back? Is there any amends they could make, or are you just finished?
Well, there is nothing that's going to bring me back. I wasn't a huge Bud Light or Budweiser fan anyway. I think that the only reason they were so big was, I think another caller just alluded to it, is that, availability. You go to any venues for concerts or sporting events, they had contracts at these stadiums and arenas to primarily sell that, and other distributors only had a small booth or two at those distributors. So that, helped bolster their market share. But at the same time, it was kind of the cheap, quick alternative. And people now, since COVID, the people are starting to think more about quality rather than price sometimes. And so they're realizing that there's other good stuff out there besides Bud Light's Will. So, that's really, I think that's what's going to do it. In order for them to get back their market shares and stuff, I think they're going to have to totally rebrand Bud Light.
Yeah,
I think they could leave Budweiser and some of the others, but they're going to have to totally rebrand Bud Light almost as a completely new name.
You know, and it really is interesting. This has completely changed the whole marketing of beer, and really in a dramatic way. I mean, Budweiser has taken a huge hit here. Sean in Mount Juliet. Sean, you're up next on the drive. So, Sean, is there anything that Anheuser-Busch could do in your mind that would bring you back, or are you done? And as I imagine that you are, where did you land?
Well, Brian, I am done. Primarily a Coors drinker for a long time. And Bud Light would be something that Coors wasn't available when I was driving, going home. I'd stop in and pick up a six-pack or something. But absolutely nothing they could ever do. I'll avoid it. I'll not drink a beer before I drink a Bud Light. And I think I think the lesson learned in this, marketing classes from here till eternity can use this as an example of what not to do, or what to do if you want to destroy a company. Great American brand for decades.
Yep.
And in less than 6 months, they've destroyed it. So
yeah, it is shocking how quickly this happened. One misstep, and I think you're right. I think in marketing departments all over the United States, if not all over the world, they're stopping to look at this and say, okay, this should be a cautionary tale. What are we doing, and how can we avoid the same mistakes that the folks over at Bud Light made? By the way, the folks at Bud Light say this was not a major part of our marketing campaign, but boy, it doesn't matter. Just the very, the fact that once it got out there and got noticed, people said, that's it, I'm done. And I don't know that they ever will be able to recover. I'll get one more call in here. Jason in Manchester. Jason, you're on with Brian on the drive. Jason, is there anything that Anheuser-Busch could do that would bring them back in your mind, that you could reconsider the brand of Bud Light?
I didn't drink Bud Light anyway, but any company that does something like that, it's too late now. They should have apologized, a sincere apology, maybe even live on TV. But they're way out of line now. It went too long.
Yeah, I mean, it has gone too long, and I think the thing that probably hurt them most is that there wasn't a quick reaction. In fact, they kept defending the decision for the longest time, and that just didn't sit well with a lot of people. Now, fascinating conversation, and I think there is a lesson to be learned here that will be observed and discussed for years and years and years to come in the business world. Is how do we make sure that we don't do to our brand what the folks at Budweiser did to Bud Light. I think it's going to be discussed, taught in schools, and will be the conversation in every marketing department in the country at some point. 50 minutes now, past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. Let me talk to you about the folks over at Everseal, and I guess I should start by explaining what it is. Well, it's a technology, it's a sealant that's been around for ages and was widely used in industrial applications. And the folks at Everseal figured out how to provide this permanent solution for sealing your exterior wood and concrete at a price point that home and business owners can actually afford. Here's how it works. They come to your house or your business and they do a deep cleaning to make your wood or concrete look just as new as it possibly can. And then they apply their patented sealant, which absorbs all the way through. It's not just something that sticks to the outside. It actually absorbs through the entire wood and concrete to become a permanent part of your wood and concrete and will prevent further deterioration for the next 30 to 50 years. Think about that. 30 to 50 years. Think about how much money you could save. Okay, let's just talk about your deck. You seal your deck every year, right? How many times have you done it? Once, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? What if we talk about 30 years? How much money would you save if you never had to go back and do it again? You see, that's what I'm thinking about. And if that makes sense to you, why don't you reach out to Steve Nelson and the team over at Everseal to get more information. Here's the number, 844-EVER-USA, 844-EVER-USA. Learn more at ever-seal.com.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Let me tell you about the Nashville Armory Ranges. 2 locations for your convenience. The Nashville Armory is at 4290 Kennelwood Drive in Nashville, over 15,000 square feet, which combines retail, classrooms, and, of course, pistol and rifle-rated ranges. So you can learn, you can become proficient, and you can stay that way. The second location, the Franklin Range at 390 South Winds Drive. There you'll find 10 state-of-the-art shooting ranges equipped with automated target control and custom shooting stalls that provide a virtually private shooting experience. And the folks who work there, well, they pride themselves on hiring folks with the expertise to advise even the most experienced shooters, but they would also have the patience to guide those who are new to the two-way world. You'll find no attitude. You'll find no pressure. Gunsmithing is back at the Nashville Range. If you're buying your first gun or adding to the collection, you'll find a wide selection of new and pre-owned firearms, suppressors, optics, apparel, shooting accessories. It's a place to buy. It's a place to train. It's a place to shoot. To learn more, just go to armoryranges.com and tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
.601, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 86 degrees right now in Nashville. A chance for showers and thunderstorms tonight into this early tomorrow morning. Forecast latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. A security scare at the U.S. Capitol had police telling people to shelter in place. Stephen Portnoy.
A single 911 call alerting of a heavily armed man sparked an intensive 90-minute-long search across the 3 Senate office buildings here. Officers went floor to floor and found nothing concerning. Capitol Police Chief Tom Manger.
At this point, we can say that we've found no confirmation that there was an active shooter and that this may have been a bogus call.
Manger wasn't prepared to say that the Senate complex had been subject to swatting, the malicious phoning in of a false threat. Both houses of Congress are out on August recess.
In New York City, outside of a popular hotel right near Grand Central Terminal, there's a growing line of asylum seekers. New York officials are calling on Washington to do more. Here's Sherry Preston.
New York Mayor Eric Adams' administration says the federal government must do more to house and feed migrants who have been bused north from the border. Ann Williams-Isham is the city's deputy mayor for Health and Human Services.
We call again to our federal government to do more, including naming the asylum seeker crisis a federal emergency, to speed up work authorizations, and to enact a national decompression strategy.
She says the city's been seeing 2,300 people arrive every week, and that is simply unsustainable.
Right now in Tennessee, police responded to Lebanon High School this afternoon after a false report of a shots fired call. Instead, it was a student setting off fireworks inside of the bathroom. It's unknown if the student will face any charges. This is the second day of their school year. Entertainment news. Seems some are turning on the popular music artist Lizzo following claims of bad behavior in a lawsuit filed this week. Jason Nathanson brings us more info.
Lizzo and some of those surrounding her were accused of sexual harassment, toxic behavior, and general nastiness in a lawsuit filed Tuesday by several of her backup dancers, and now others are coming forward. Oscar-nominated documentarian Sophia Nolly Allison posted on social media that she traveled with Lizzo in 2019 to direct a documentary and quit after 2 weeks, claiming the singer treated her with disrespect, witnessing how arrogant, self-centered, and unkind she was. And Beyoncé usually shouts Lizzo out during shows on her current tour, Tuesday night in Boston. That didn't happen. Lizzo has not responded to the claims.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is, make it good evening. It's 7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. In the 6 o'clock hour, we call it evening, even when it's still bright outside. Hey, we're glad that you're with us on this last hour. We'll go until 7 o'clock. Then we'll have a newscast, and then there will be Mark Levin, who will carry on for a while. And he's been wound up lately. You know, have you ever had a day where Mark Levin wasn't a little wound up?
Never. No.
Never. No, he's always wound up. But he's right. That's the thing. He's right to be wound up. This story, I'm going to do a bunch of local stories, but I'm going to start by telling you a story. I don't know if you've heard this or not. This is remarkable. You know, we broadcast up into southern Kentucky. We have a lot of listeners in Kentucky. Our major audience is in Middle Tennessee, but we like to talk about things that happen just north of here from time to time. And who knows? Maybe someone within the sound of my voice up there knows the real story here. I'm fascinated by this story. Rare gold coins found buried in Kentucky worth millions. It's in line with, they say, winning the lottery. How many millions? 2 million more dollars. Maybe. The location of the Kentucky cornfield where the coins were found remains a mystery as experts speculate about how the money got there. This is from the 1860s. This is around the time of the Civil War. You ready? Here we go. A cache of more than 800 Civil War-era gold coins were recently unearthed in a Kentucky cornfield, a treasure worth millions that experts were calling one of the greatest finds of the 21st century. It's hard to put this in context because there are so few instances of coins of this nature with this level of rarity being found in the ground in the United States, says Andrew Salzberg, Executive Vice President of the Numismatic Guarantee Company Certified Collectibles Group. Now, this company, NGC for short, because I don't want to say that again, a third-party grading service for coins and tokens and metals based in Sarasota, Florida, certified the coins, dubbed the Great Kentucky Hoard, and valued them at more than $2 million. I get choked up thinking about this. 800 Civil War-era gold coins found at the base, apparently, of a tree. And when you add it all up and you look at the rarity of the coins, all told, somewhere probably worth about $2 million. Most of them are gold dollars, which in and of themselves are really interesting pieces. In addition, he added there are some $20 gold pieces, a couple of which were dated 1863 and graded at MS-64, which is the highest grade that has ever been graded of a coin like this.
So they were in great condition then.
Yeah, they were.
Right?
The finder of the coins and the exact location of the apparent buried treasure remains a mystery as of now. And the company is honoring the request to keep names of the people who found the coins and the names of the cornfields anonymous.
Yeah, because the people will be digging it. The
next thing you know, you got people out there with metal detectors.
Yeah.
This is due to the value of the discovery, the security, and the risk of others who desire to treasure hunt for themselves. Clues about the discovery itself are documented in a 20-second YouTube. A man is shown narrating as he pulls piles of coin from the soil. He says, "This is the most," can you imagine being there when this happens? "This is the most insane thing ever. These are $1 gold pieces, $20 gold pieces, $10 gold pieces, and look, I'm still digging them out." Someone wanted me, Jeff Garrett, owner of a company in Lexington, Kentucky, got an anonymous email from an anonymous discoverer. Someone wanted me to look at an 1863 double eagle, which in its own rights is a very rare coin. It's just a scarce coin because of the year, lower mintage during the Civil War. So I agreed to meet at the office, and when we met in the office, he showed me several more coins. That's when the man revealed to Garrett that he had located 18 coins in the stash that were double eagles dated to 1863. So this very rare gold coin, he had 18 of them. 1 coin would be astounding. 18 coins is profound due to the rarity. And when we discussed, there were 800 other gold coins, but they were primarily gold dollars, which were fairly common. Yeah, I mean, they're saying that this is unheard of. Now, how they got there is up to a lot of speculation, but it is unusual to find that kind of gold coin. I mean, this is amazing. Honestly, just amazing. There's a big spike in the hoarding of coins in the American Civil War. So a lot of people were they didn't trust the banks. The economy was starting to collapse. You didn't want the enemy to show up and take your money if you had it in the house. So you buried it out in a tree somewhere in a cornfield. But then how do you then forget about it? How do you lose track of it? That's the thing.
Unless maybe it was a soldier that was going to then be part of the Civil War, and he said, well, I better hide this money.
And I'll come back to it.
And then he was killed or something during the war, maybe.
Right. Well, there you go. I don't know. Fascinating. Fascinating. Now let's look a little closer to home with some local news. This is completely unrelated to gold coins, but I just thought that was a fascinating story. Can you be imagined? Excuse me. The gnat got me. There's a gnat.
Where's your apple cider vinegar?
Well, the apple cider gnat trap in my studio is doing quite well, but apparently one just went down my throat. I'm sorry. Please excuse me. I think this is controversial. People will yell at me and yell at me and yell at me, and I say, okay, fine. I believe this, though. I believe that these license plate readers are something that can really help law enforcement. I had my doubts. I had my concerns. Like many people at first blush, I start thinking, I don't want things on the street that are tracking me unnecessarily and looking at me. I want my privacy when I'm out as much as possible. But you see, that's not how these things work. And I know people are upset and they vehemently disagree with me, but I believe license plate readers can help police get bad people off the street. And I don't think it really hurts me at all. I mean, the way it's been explained to me is license plate readers, they don't put a number to be scanned. I mean, sure, they scan all numbers, but they don't react at all until there's a license plate number that somebody has filed connected to a criminal case. It has to be connected to a criminal case. And so, I think that's what I want. I want the police alerted. Here's a person who has an outstanding warrant. It could be a felony warrant. It could be a murder warrant. There have been those cases where murder cases have been broken open, simply not necessarily in Nashville, but in other places, simply because they got a hit on the LPR and they were able to arrest murderers. I don't have a problem if it takes violent, dangerous people off the streets. I think that's something that I want to support. The police love it. Now, the question is, there was kind of a test program in Nashville where they were going to do a 6-month pilot to see how it would impact the city. And what we found is that, well, the police are very excited about the thing. Even the assistant district attorney testified that they believe this is a good thing. But a lot of other people in Nashville are against the idea. Metro Police said that the pilot program ended on July 22nd, according to News Channel 5. They say a total of 71 million license plates were read by the cameras, and 112 arrests were made. Officers said the cameras helped track down stolen vehicles and guns and helped to get dangerous criminals off the street. We can work smarter, said Greg Blair, deputy chief at the Metro Police Department. We can put an LPR there. It's cheaper. It doesn't take a vacation, and it can do more accurately than we do. In other words, you can do this with human eyes on the ground, but it not as effectively as the LPR. As they say, 6 months they read 71 million license plates. Most of them, nothing happens. But if you've got a criminal case against you, if you've got, a warrant for your arrest, a felony warrant, and it's in the system, then and your license plate, when it gets scanned, is going to get pinged, and they're going to alert police to your location. I don't have a problem. Why is that controversial? I don't know. A lot of people are going to be angry at me for saying this, but I really do believe that this whole idea of the license plate readers is something that I think we should endorse and continue. But you got the Community Oversight Board and a whole bunch of other folks who are saying that, this happened in areas, in some areas there were heavier placement of the LPRs. And I want to go, well, where would you put the LPRs? You would put the LPRs in the parts of the community where you had the greatest crime problem, would you not? If you're looking to take dangerous criminals off the street, you put the LPRs where you think you're going to get the most hits. And where is that? In areas of high crime. I don't know. Doesn't seem like it's stalking. I don't think it's a misuse of a technology. Just simply seems to me that's what you would do with this technology. I hope they keep them. They've been used very effectively in other markets. Well, Mount Juliet has a very robust. You know what else happens? Even if the city doesn't do it, some communities, some neighborhoods inside Nashville are doing their own systems. A neighborhood will get together and say, we're going to put LPRs in. It's amazing. The Metro Council, I am told, very quickly, has passed a new commission for cycling and pedestrian safety. Here it comes. Get ready. A whole bunch of new bicycle and pedestrian rules and regulations designed to promote bicycles and pedestrians, and I guarantee you it will make driving in Nashville a bit more difficult. I would say if you're going to put together a cycling and pedestrian safety commission, that they should put out a statement very quickly explaining that the best way to not get run over is to stay out of the way of cars. It could be just me, but I don't know. In a minute, the big Nashville mayoral election is tomorrow, and we won't know tomorrow night who the mayor is. I'll give you more on that in just a moment. 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. In times of market and economic volatility, gold and silver just might be the safe haven you're looking for. It's Brian Wilson for the Nashville Gold and Coin. If you are looking to buy real, actual, hold it in your hand, gold, silver, or bullion, let me tell you, this is the place I do business and the place I recommend. You'll get honest, friendly customer service and a real precious metals education. And as I mentioned, they also specialize in the buying, selling, and appraising of coins. Do you have any idea how much those old coins you have laying around might be worth? I brought in a few silver coins in a shoebox that was buried in my sock drawer forever, and it turned out to be worth it. I'm not making this up, $1,652. So whether you're in the market to purchase precious metals or you just want to find out what those coins in your closet might be worth, schedule a one-on-one consultation today. Go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. Again, that's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air. So glad you're still with us as we make our way home on this evening, August 2nd. We'll have Mark Levin coming up at the top of the hour. Tomorrow, Election Day in Nashville for a new mayor. I just want to be on record here of the mayor that I'm hoping for. I'm not going to say that I endorse one candidate or the other. I have a very specific need when it comes to a Nashville mayor. I'm not a resident of Nashville. Doesn't impact me at all personally, except that as someone who's on the radio, I just want to say I've had a great run of mockable mayors. Honestly, I mean, think about it. I came into town and I was in town maybe 3 days before the Megan Barry thing all broke open. And that was quite the thing, wasn't it? And then we got for a while we got Mayor Cellophane. He was about the most boring human being on the planet. He was I called him Mayor Cellophane because you could look right through him and never know he was there.
Can't even remember his name.
Can't even remember his name. That's right. And so he was the most non I don't know, I wouldn't want to say he was ineffective, but I would say no, honestly, the guy just had zero charisma. So we had some fun with that. And then, we've had fun with Mayor Munchkin. There's no doubt about that. No, I'm not supposed to do that. The mayor formerly known as Mayor Munchkin. My disappointment with him really honestly is based on certain things because he sort of suggested he would be a very fiscally conservative. Not necessarily conservative because he's very much a Democrat, but fiscally he suggested to our audience that he would do everything he could to try to, keep spending under control. And then I think he got into office and just went crazy. I disagree with the way he handled the pandemic and the lockdown that went on forever and ever and ever and ever in Nashville. I will never forget how, he said nobody can come out and do anything except if you want to come out and protest for this thing. And that protest then nearly turned into the end of Nashville as we know it, because they tried to burn down the courthouse. They tried to burn down Lower Broadway. They even did damage to the Ryman, not the Grand Ole Opry, the Ryman. And that whole night was just a disaster. And I think he had some part of that happening by encouraging people, even during the lockdown, to come down and be the part of what they thought was going to be a protest, but turned into a riot. So, I have my issues with Mayor Minnie Cooper. So what's going to happen tomorrow? Well, we'll have an election, and I will tell you that we will not know who the new mayor is because, well, you got all God's children are running for mayor. 12 candidates running for mayor, I think it is right now. And you got to get 50%, and that's probably not going to happen. Leading, according to a poll, I don't have any idea whether this is a reliable poll or not. Tennesseans for Student Success by Victory Phones report that Freddie O'Connell leads the Nashville mayor's race with 25.4% of the vote. Trailing O'Connell is Alice Rowley, Mount Wilshire, Jeff Yarbrough, Heidi Campbell. Now, in the earlier poll, Heidi Campbell did really well, but now she's coming in about 5.9%. Sharon Hurt, Vivian Wilhoit, and Fran Bush. 14.5% of respondents said, I don't like any of them. I wish I had another choice. They would vote for another individual if there were one. So, what we're going to have here tomorrow is Freddie O'Connell, maybe. I don't know who comes in first, but the top two candidates, whoever they are, will then move into a runoff, something that dates back to the days of the Nashville Charter when Metro Nashville became into being some 60 years ago. The authors of the Metro Charter wanted to run off because they didn't want a mayor to win with only 20% of the vote. Wouldn't have much of a mandate, and so they thought maybe we ought to have a runoff, and that's how we ended up with the runoff. So tomorrow we'll give you what we got, but I don't expect we'll have the final answer until the runoff is complete, and we'll see who the top two candidates are tomorrow. It is now 30 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Listen, if you're thinking about doing something to sort of, spruce up the old place, maybe you'll think about painting. Well, I don't really recommend that. I mean, you could paint, but, paint has its limitations. You paint, and it'll look good for a little while, but then it'll start cracking and peeling. That's what paint does. But if you called the folks at Rhino Shield of Nashville, you wouldn't have to think about painting your house for another 25 years, a full quarter century. See, Rhino Shield is not paint. It's 10 times thicker than paint, is infused with special 3M ingredients, billions of microspheres that allow the coating to expand and contract, and that's why they offer a 25-year warranty against cracking, chipping, and peeling. Now, Clay Morris and the folks of Rhino Shield of Nashville have a great reputation. They care deeply about doing quality work. Don't take my word for it. Amanda wrote, "My home turned out beautifully. They showed up on time. The crew was very professional and courteous. I had some custom painting that needed to be done, and they did an amazing job." Does this sound like something you'd be interested in? Why don't you give Clay Morris a call at 615-474-1729. That's 615-474-1729. Learn more at rhinoshieldnashville.com. It is 38 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson in the chair for a few more minutes till we hand it over to Mark Levin at the top of the hour. Thank you so much for being a part of our broadcast. I hope that we have served you well as you move from one part of the metro area to the other in what this thing we call the afternoon drive. I'm going to bring a bunch of sort of just oddball stories here. And some of them are entertainment related. So here we go. Remember the other day when we told you it happened here in Nashville? The Chicks were supposed to perform at Bridgestone Arena, big old show at Bridgestone Arena, and they canceled at the last minute, saying, "Well, somebody's sick." See, they don't give us any details on what it is, but they call it a mystery illness. Some are saying. So the Chicks were sick, and they couldn't do their show out at Bridgestone. But apparently, it's an ongoing illness. Due to an ongoing illness, the Chicks regret that they must reschedule the show at Merriweather Post Pavilion. That's the place I used to go in the D.C. area, and cancel our show at Bethel Woods Center for the Arts. The country band said on Instagram. They say that they'll reschedule, just like they're going to reschedule the one here. Some people were upset. I'll be out of the country on the rescheduled date for Merriweather, and I spent $500 on these tickets. This is so wrong. $500 for Chicks tickets. I can't imagine the toll the touring performance takes on the mind and body. Please take care and feel better soon, said others. So we don't know what's going on. We just know that somebody has an ongoing illness, and no other details have been provided. Scheduled performances in North Carolina, Tennessee, New York, and Washington, D.C. area, all canceled because of illness, and apologies being offered by the Chicks, but we don't really know exactly what is the sickness.
That's very strange that they're not coming out and say, "Yeah, I'm sick. I've got some throat issues or whatever." That's odd that they're not saying.
Yeah, and not suggesting, I don't know. Maybe they just feel like, well, everybody's entitled to their, medical privacy. I guess that's it. I don't know, but it does make me wonder why so many of these have been canceled. And well, maybe there's a good reason, but they haven't really explained other than to say, "We got a sick chick." Meanwhile, Jason Aldean's, this is an amazing story. Jason Aldean's Try That in a Small Town has hit another music milestone. Okay, now we told you that this did very well on the country charts, went right up to the top of the country charts after it became sort of a controversial thing. Some people said, "We don't like this," and a lot of other Americans said, "Shut up. It's exactly right. It's exactly what life is like in a small town. We support Jason Aldean." Well, guess what? It is not only the number one song on country charts, it is number one now on Billboard's all-genre Hot 100 song chart. Now, that is the cream of the crop right there. In other words, these are the top 100 songs that are making money out there because people are downloading it, and it's number one, not just on the country charts, but on the all-genre Hot 100 song chart. And even though the mainstream media and the leftists tried to cancel this song. Two other country singles follow Aldean's hit, Morgan Wallen's Last Night at number 2, and Luke Combs' rendition of Tracy Chapman's Fast Car, which also was criticized. And as a result, they said, Luke Combs can't sing a Tracy Chapman song. And Luke Combs said, "Oh, yeah, I can. Watch this. Hold my beer." And he did. And now it's number 3. So country singles, Morgan Wallen, who had controversy, and then Luke Combs, who was attacked for even daring to do Fast Car by Tracy Chapman, is at number 3. Number 1, Jason Aldean. Pretty astonishing. The voice of people who don't put up with this kind of nonsense increasingly being heard in America. Wouldn't you say? I mean, I think that's pretty evident. So there we go. As long as we're talking about music news, this story, I actually stumbled across it yesterday, and I didn't get a chance to talk about it but it's really something. And, we have been quite critical on this program from time to time about Tay-Tay, Taylor Swift. We sort of have our fun with her. I actually think Taylor Swift, I don't agree with her politics at all, but I think she writes a pretty good pop song, and she has a way with getting a good hook that makes you sort of connect to the song. I don't have anything against her. I know that there are millions and millions and millions of Taylor Swift fans. And so, I'll put aside my personal animus to report this story. Taylor Swift reportedly gave $100,000 to each of the truck drivers she hired to help haul her stuff across the country for her Eras tour. $100,000 each. Sources close to Swift said she gave each of the truckers their huge bonus checks just before she took to the stage for her show in Santa Clara, California on Saturday. To put her generosity into perspective, Swift secured the services of roughly 50 truckers to assist her with the American leg of the tour, which means she paid out to those truck drivers $5 million.
Wow, that's
a
something.
bonus.
That's wow. That's impressive.
I know, that really is pretty impressive, isn't it? The thank you nod was according to the Daily Caller, was the artist way of thanking the truckers for hauling all of her belongings across the country, and were considered to be an end-of-tour bonus as the American tour dates quickly come to a close. Swift is scheduled to perform a series of concerts at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood in the coming days, and then we'll be headed to Mexico. Oh, man. Where's she going to be playing in Mexico in the next of series of events? With those with direct knowledge of the situation said the big donations to the trucker wasn't the only form of Swift's gift giving. She reportedly also distributed bonuses to band members, dancers, lighting, sound technicians, catering staff, and other members of her team. I actually got a message when she was here from someone who was working on a security team detail while she was here in Nashville. And I don't know that this person got a bonus, but one of the things that the person told me was that there were very nice notes handed back to the local people by the show's producer. In other words, they went out of their way to say, look, we're coming through here, we're blowing through, we're not going to be very long, but I really want you to know we appreciate, how you did your job, and we think, we just wanted you to know that it did not go unnoticed. And I thought, just writing a note sometimes, that's a lovely gesture. But the Eras Tour has earned more than $1 billion in sales and is expected to become the highest grossing tour of all time, according to TMZ.
So she can afford it, is what you're saying.
She made $1 billion. She can give a $5 million bonus to the truck drivers. But, I mean, who thinks about the truck drivers, right?
Yeah.
That's wheels
great.
Rolling.
Yeah, tip of the hat
gotta
to
keep
Taylor
them rolling
Swift for that.
Yeah, I tip my hat, and I think that's pretty cool. All right, let's see what else we got here. This story, I didn't know this happened. This would have, I would have been really upset if I'd known, but apparently it got a good outcome. Voyager 2. Where is Voyager 2? It's outside of our solar system. It's out in deep space. It's still rocking along, and it was working just fine. It was still giving scientific measurements. I forget how long it's been out there. But it was launched when I was a teenager, so it's been a long time. After days of silence, I didn't know that there were days of silence. NASA has heard from Voyager 2 in interstellar space. Flight controllers, can you imagine being the guy who did this? Now, we've been tracking this satellite for decades, and this probe of deep space in our own solar system for decades. And apparently a flight controller accidentally sent a wrong command nearly 2 weeks ago that tilted the spacecraft antenna away from Earth and for a while severed contact.
Ruh-roh.
Can you imagine that the person who was responsible for that? I'm sorry, we're going to have to take away your Voyager control pass. You can no longer do that. NASA's Deep Space Network giant radio antenna across the globe picked up a heartbeat signal, meaning the 46-year-old craft is alive and operating. They said in an email, the news buoyed our spirits. Flight controllers at the Jet Propulsion Lab in California will now try to turn Voyager 2's antenna back toward Earth and get it all straightened out. But it's still out there, even though somebody did the biggest oops of all times in the Voyager program. These things are truly amazing. Truly amazing. Can you just look up when it was launched, Voyager 2, while I'm doing this? Because I think that's fascinating. And then to wrap things up, while you're giving me that statistic, do you have it there?
1977.
77. So yep. I was more than a teenager, but I mean that's a long time ago.
It's impressive that it's still operating. Yeah.
Still out there, still cranking, and still beeping. And even though they messed up, it looks like they'll be able to get it straightened out. Astonishing. You know, I always love it when, for example, we send a rover to Mars and it lasts like 5 years longer than it was supposed to last. I think that's great. We get a lot of bang for our buck out of some parts of our space program. I don't know if you saw it last night, Chris. Did you see it? The big Sturgeon moon last night.
Oh, I forgot all about it. I didn't see it.
Yep, it was the first supermoon of August. The second supermoon will happen on August 30th, and it will be a blue moon. You see, what is a blue moon? It's when you have a second full moon in a month. It's rare on the calendar, and therefore they say, haven't seen you in a blue moon.
That makes sense.
Or as they often say around my house, would you like a blue moon? How about a little piece of orange in the,
That'll work too.
That's a different kind of blue moon. No, it will present the next one will appear 8% larger and 16% brighter than an average size moon, according to the almanac.
8%? That's not that much.
I think it does make a difference.
I'll have to see if I can see it this time or the next time.
Yeah. Second full moon in a single month is the blue moon. That's where you get the phrase, once in a blue moon. 50 minutes now, past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing so you'll know how much it will cost before the care is delivered. Best known for their Smart Care plans, starting at just $69 a month, you get, and listen to this, unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. That's a pretty good deal. And when you treat the entire family, even newborns, because they treat families and newborns, you can get family plans as well. In conjunction with a highly deductible insurance plan, you could save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. And they want you to know that seasonal allergies, they understand that they are there and the people are suffering. And they offer allergy testing and treatment so you can enjoy the great outdoors again. Some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 599-6868, to schedule a visit.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. evidence-based. In other words, a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
All right, that's it for me. I'll be back here tomorrow at 3 o'clock for another exciting edition of The Drive. Hope that you will join us. It is Election Day in the city. Busy Bee, HVAC and Plumbing. Listen, whether you need annual maintenance, repair, or replacement of your heating or air conditioning system, Why don't you call the people I would trust? Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Rude Pro partner. I am a member of the Beehive Club, and I suggest that you think about that as well. For as little as $99, you get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at your plumbing. No overtime charges, 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. That's right, Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner, and they're the folks that, you want to do business with. They'll treat you right. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833. That's 775-7833, or learn more by going to their website, busybehvac.com.